Welcome back everybody. Thanos is a moron, at least according to an article over at Screen Rant, which goes into great detail in debunking the efficiency of his genocidal plan. That plan being wiping out 50% of all life in the universe. Now, I like to play devil's advocate, so I'll share my thoughts at the end of the video, but let's have a look-see at this deconstruction of Thanos and his mindset. If you ask Thanos, he'll tell you that his Infinity War plan is all for the greater good, wipe out half of all life and the universe gets a fresh start. Unfortunately, Thanos' master plan just gets dumber and dumber the more you think about it, mainly because the kind of population control he's after wouldn't even work. While Marvel has maintained that Thanos is dispassionate but logical, and a moral stain he's willing to accept, murdering half of all life in the universe may be seen as evil to some, but once Thanos can take his form of genocide, rebalancing the universe to a cosmic scale with the Infinity Stones, he will retire and watch the sunrise on a grateful universe. But that's because Thanos is dumber than either he or Marvel seem willing to concede. Not only would that plan not work the way he thinks, but would more likely descend entire worlds into nightmarish hellscapes of nature unbalanced. Allow us to explain. Please explain. Before we get to explain why Thanos doesn't actually understand how life or ecosystems are actually balanced, let's just look at his logic in wiping out half of intelligent life, since it's only the humans, humanoid aliens, and walking trees actually shown dissolving as a result of his snap. It's obvious that killing half of the people, or alien inclusive peoples, is what audiences are supposed to respond to, and at first glance it makes sense. Thanos claims that his plan emerged on his home planet Titan, where overpopulation soon began to strain natural resources. They refused to cut their population in half, soon exhausting the planet and perished. And so he went from world to world culling populations by half, because to Thanos, population means how many people are alive right now, which is where his plan falls apart almost completely. What Thanos doesn't consider, apparently, is how population happens. As more people are born, mature, and give birth, the same rate of reproduction inflates population, and far faster than you might think. Now, this is the part of his argument I'll be taking apart later. It took all of human history until 1804 just to get to 1 billion living people on Earth. By 1923, it had reached 2 billion. In 1960, we hit 3 billion. In just over the half century since, Earth now sits at 7.6 billion. Because that's how populations work. Even if half the people on Earth died tomorrow, the reasons we live so long remain: medicine, technology, etc. So thanks Thanos, you murdered 3.3 billion souls on Earth alone, guaranteeing us a total of 50 years before we're right back to where we were. Even if you double or triple that amount of time for other alien worlds, it's not just nitpicking. Yes, it is actually. The plan enacted by Thanos is plain and simple, a flawed one on its most fundamental assumption. But honestly, that's not even the worst way Thanos' plan fundamentally unbalances the universe. Add in Marvel now claiming that Thanos killed half the plants and animals too, and he's cutting the resources in half, turning Earth into the exact kind of doomed ecosystem he claims he's helping to avoid. But going a step further, that means half of all plant or animal populations are sliced in half, no matter how evolved, intelligent, or even visible they really are. But even that flaw is ignored. The plan is half-baked at best. Our knowledge of just what havoc that would wreak is limited to Earth. But it's enough to know that Thanos doesn't know that ecosystems develop a balance of their own. When you move beyond this eats that and realize that life forms have different roles, the idea of Thanos wiping out half of the already struggling bee population alone would likely lead to catastrophic famine, no matter how many billions of people remain. Take out half the algae in Earth's waters, which produce 75% of the planet's oxygen, and it's possible that all life fails, with such a major force no longer capable of holding up its place in the larger system. That's not even taking into account the microscopic organisms, bacteria, or unclassified life playing roles we don't yet know. Fans need look no farther than Ant-Man and the Wasp to see that in Marvel's universe, life thrives at every level of existence, and Thanos doesn't even know enough to keep the visible forms from collapsing. So at best, his plan throws every life form and ecosystem structure into absolute chaos while guaranteeing that dominant intelligent species will return to their numbers in years, decades, maybe a century or two at best. The master plan hatched by Thanos, it's not enough to permanently save the universe, but it's a great way of killing it. So, great points made by Andrew Dias, who wrote the article. Okay, Mr. Smarty Pants, here's my rebuttal, and you guys can let me know what you think. Has anyone heard of China's one-child policy? Well, they've abolished it now, but for a good number of years, to get control over their population, the Chinese government enforced a law where you were only allowed to have one child per couple. Andrew Dice here brings up a great point that Earth's population would quickly bounce back. There'd still be somewhere in the vicinity of 3.8 billion people to reproduce, but that's if the population was allowed to reproduce. After Thanos' culling of the populations, who's to say he doesn't set up authoritarian governments to control their populations? Something similar to China's one-child policy. This is probably why he kills other life forms as well that belong to ecosystems, so there isn't an abundance of resources. An abundance of resources could lead to an invasion from another alien race or species. No point really if everyone's barely holding on. Another thing to take into account, as literacy and education rise, the birth rate drops. To have your population grow, you need a fertility rate of 2.1 children per couple. In the West, the average is way below that. That's why all this craziness with immigration is going on. Some countries are actually losing their populations. Take Japan for example. Their literacy rate is among the highest in the world, and if they don't start actually having sex with each other instead of masturbating to anime, they'll disappear eventually. So we have real world examples of how population numbers can be controlled or even stagnate. I know this is all make-believe, but I thought the article failed to take these things into account. And from a storytelling point of view, you can imagine this dystopian future where children have a picture of Thanos in their classrooms as they're being indoctrinated about the perils of overpopulation and the tale of how Thanos cleansed the universe for the betterment of everybody. You'd have secret rebellions organizing, trying to overthrow the governments loyal to Thanos' ways. Plenty of material for future superhero content. Marvel, send me my check, you bastards. So there you have it, peoples. Is Thanos a moron, or does his plan make sense? Leave your thoughts down below. As always, thanks for dropping by and for your continued support. Don't forget to like, share, sub and all of that good stuff. And until next time, see yas!